Welcome, everyone, to the Deep Dive. Today, we're cutting through the noise that's been absolutely buzzing in the filmmaking world.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk.
Definitely. Specifically around two new cameras that dropped, within 48 hours of each other back in September 2025. The Nikon ZR and the Canon C50.
Right. Boom, boom.
Exactly. And this isn't just about shiny new gear. It feels like a fundamental shift in what filmmakers expect from their tools, from indie creators all the way up to commercial powerhouses. On the surface, these two might look like direct competitors. You'd think they're vying for the same space in your camera bag.
That's the first impression.
But as we unpack this, you'll quickly see they represent two pretty distinct philosophies, each meticulously crafted for a different kind of creator.
Very different approaches, yeah.
So our mission today is really to go beyond the spec sheets. Identify the surprising truths, the hidden strengths, maybe some compromises too, and help you understand which of these groundbreaking cameras truly aligns with your workflow, your budget, and ultimately your filmmaking style. To guide us through this intricate landscape, we're going to journey through their market context first.
Good place to start.
Then we'll dive deep into their core codec philosophies, comparing Nikon's, groundbreaking Red RAW integration to Canon's Cinema Raw Lite with its versatile open gate.
Key difference right there.
Big one. We'll scrutinize their 4K 60p workflows, dissect their stabilization and audio capabilities, examine monitoring and ergonomics. That's a big one too.
Oh, yeah?
We'll discuss their thermal performance, and finally, identify their ideal target users. And crucially, we'll look at the significant implications these releases have for Sony's established FX line.
Which is huge.
It is. That's a lot, I know. But by the end, you'll be incredibly well informed, hopefully.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here, just as an initial thought, is how these two cameras, released almost simultaneously, aren't just, incremental updates. They're making really bold statements about the future of compact cinema.
Right.
They're forcing us all to reevaluate what professional even means in this category anymore. It's an exciting time, definitely. But it also demands a more discerning eye from filmmakers to truly understand where your investment is best placed.
That discerning eye is absolutely key. So let's start with the timing, because it truly felt like a 1-2 punch in the industry, didn't it?
It really did. It's very sudden.
The Canon C50 drops on September 9th, 2025, and then bam, the very next day, September 10th, the Nikon ZR. This near simultaneous launch, it couldn't have just been a coincidence, right?
Yeah.
It created this immediate stir and set up this compelling, almost unavoidable comparison.
Oh, absolutely. It certainly made everyone in the industry sit up and take notice. It wasn't just about releasing a new product. It felt like they were staking a clear claim in the compact cinema space.
Yeah.
Both companies chose to make a very deliberate statement about their intended strategic lines, and they did so with, like you said, remarkable synchronicity, almost as if they knew what the other was planning.
And that strategic intent is so clear when you look at how distinct their approaches are, isn't it? Let's examine the Nikon ZR first. From everything we've seen, everything we've heard, it's clearly positioned as the value winner.
That's the narrative.
This camera aggressively brings internal Red RAW. That's a feature usually found in much, much higher-end cameras, right?
Way higher end, yeah.
And it brings it to an incredibly accessible price point. It's truly designed for, solo filmmakers, indie productions, content creators who want that elite-level image quality without needing to mortgage their house.
Oh, right.
It's like putting an elite cinema engine into an affordable mirrorless body. That's a really powerful message.
It truly is. Nikon's play here is to fundamentally disrupt the perception of what's possible at this price point. They're essentially saying, look, you don't need to spend 5 figures anymore to get professional-grade RAW.
Yeah. And that appeals directly to a segment of the market that has traditionally had to compromise, either on codec quality or by relying on complex, clunky external recorders. The ZR aims to empower that agile, independent creator who needs high-end capabilities in a lightweight, self-contained package. Okay, so then on the other side, you've got the Canon C50. It seems to be marching to a slightly different beat.
Definitely a different rhythm.
It's designed as a compact, true cinema EOS. And that's not just branding, right? It feels like it's signaling a camera built for established professional sets, for commercial productions, for those demanding environments where maximum output flexibility, robust features, and absolute reliability are, paramount.
That's it exactly. Canon is clearly prioritizing a traditional professional workflow and a comprehensive suite of connectivity options right out of the box. They're leaning into their heritage in the Cinema EOS line.
Right, the C line.
Providing a camera that integrates pretty seamlessly into established production pipelines. It's about predictability, robustness, and the assurance, really, that the camera can handle the rigors of a busy set. While Nikon is, democratizing elite features, Canon is refining them for an already professional user base that demands specific output flexibility and uncompromised performance on demanding jobs.
Okay, so why does all this market context matter to you, our listener? Because this isn't just about two cameras going head-to-head on a spec sheet. That's boring.
Right, it's more nuanced.
This is about Nikon and Canon carving out distinct niches, forcing you to consider not just the features, but the underlying philosophy of the camera. Are you that agile, lean and mean solo operator always on the move? Or are you part of a larger, more structured production team that relies on robust, integrated systems?
Yeah, asking yourself that question is critical.
Your answer there is going to be critical in deciding which of these cameras truly serves your filmmaking vision.
And building right on that, the most significant philosophical divergence, and maybe the most impactful one for a filmmaker, lies in their codec strategies. Both are, raw powerhouses in their own right, but they offer very different flavors of raw.
Different flavors, I like that.
Yeah, each with unique implications for your workflow.
Okay, expert, let's dive into these codecs then. Nikon absolutely made a huge splash with Red RAW.
Yeah.
So for our listeners who might be weighing this up, what's the real game changer here? Is it just the name, or are there nuances to this Red Code RAW integration that people might miss?
That's a great question. The single most significant takeaway, the real headline grabber from the ZR's launch, is the inclusion of internal Red Code RAW, or R3D-A. They call it the Nikon edition.
Okay, R3D-NE.
What this means practically is you're getting the authentic RD codec pipeline, the whole workflow. And you're getting it at an approximate starting price of, $2,199 in the USA or 2,349 euros in Germany.
Wow, that's aggressive.
It is. It is, by all accounts, the smallest and cheapest camera on the market with genuine internal Red RAW. Some reviews even use the German term Echtem Red RAW to really emphasize its authenticity, to differentiate it from maybe other RAW-like formats out there.
And the implication of having R3D-AE, which records using Log3G10 and red wide gamut color science, that's enormous, right?
Yeah.
This is the exact pipeline that Ready Sets have been using for years.
Exactly, the exact pipeline.
So for anyone already in the RD ecosystem or maybe aspiring to be, this makes the ZR an incredibly compelling B camera, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. A no-brainer B cam.
Yeah.
You can achieve seamless color matching and exposure logic with larger, more expensive Red cameras, your Komodos, your Raptors, without needing complex workarounds or LUT transformations in post. Precisely. So for under $2,200, you're not just getting some kind of RAW. You're getting a high-end, incredibly flexible RAW format that just fundamentally alters the price-to-performance calculation for serious RAW video. It's an unprecedented level of access.
It really lowers the barrier to entry.
Hugely. Now, beyond R3D, the ZR also supports Nikon's own NRAW and potentially ProRes RAW externally, which are good options to have. But let's be clear, R3D is the sweet spot here. It does offer ProRes 422HQ internally as well, which is solid, a standard codec, but reviewers have noted it can have a bit of a polished look, maybe some baked-in noise reduction.
Okay.
And H.265, unfortunately, it can appear visibly soft or sometimes overprocessed. And some users reported a faulty remaining time display, making it maybe less advisable for really critical projects. R3D is where the magic is.
Okay, now turning to the Canon C50. Its RAW philosophy takes a different, but as you said, equally powerful route. The C50 records 7K up to 60p in Canon's proprietary cinema RAW light.
CRL, yeah.
Now, CRL might not be as universally adopted as R3D, but it's a highly efficient and flexible RAW format, right? It's proven its worth in professional Canon workflows, particularly for its manageable file sizes, compared to, say, uncompressed RAW.
Definitely. CRL strikes a good balance between quality and file size. But the real differentiator for the C50 here, the thing that has filmmakers really talking, is its 3.2 open gate mode.
Ah, open gate. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, it's available up to 30p. Think of it like this. It gives you this expansive digital canvas. You're utilizing the full sensor area, approximately 6912 by 4608 pixels.
The whole chip.
the whole thing. This empowers you to reframe shots in post, create simultaneous vertical crops for social media alongside your main horizontal shot, or simplify complex VFX work with just unparalleled flexibility. This full sensor glory means you have immense headroom for punch-ins, for adapting to different aspect ratios for various deliverables, or for working seamlessly with anamorphic lenses without needing excessive cropping.
That sounds like a huge creative advantage, especially for certain types of work.
Oh, aye.
Alongside RAW, the C50 also provides efficient XF-HEVCS and XF-AVCS profiles. What are those good for?
Those are ideal for producing finished 4K masters directly in camera, or for generating proxies simultaneously. This dual-track approach, combining robust RAW with efficient delivery codecs, really highlights its focus on a complete professional workflow from capture to delivery. So let's talk about the practical consequences for your workflow, because this is where these distinctions truly hit home.
Yeah, how does it affect me on set or in the edit bay?
Well, if you're someone who regularly needs to deliver simultaneous horizontal, say 16.9 for YouTube, and vertical 9.1Cs for TikTok or Instagram Reels, or even square 1.1 crops, the C50's parallel recording capability is a massive workflow advantage.
How did that work?
You can record your main RAW file, your 7K OpenGate RAW, onto the CF Express card, and at the same time record a proxy file or a specific crop like that vertical 9.1C onto the SD card.
Oh, wow.
You can even shift that vertical crop around within the frame and camera before you hit record. This eliminates a huge number of post-production steps. No more manually creating crops, rendering extra files. It saves a tremendous amount of time, especially for social media heavy workflows.
That's huge. Okay, so that's the C50's killer app there. Conversely, if you're mixing with already cameras, or if your primary goal is simply the highest quality RAW flexibility at the lowest possible entry cost for, say, a single format output like a short film,
then the ZR's internal R3D is your clear, incredibly cost-effective path. Stepping back, the larger implication here, connecting it to the bigger picture, is that the choice isn't just about RAW in the abstract.
Right.
It's about which RAW ecosystem you're entering RBD's established world, or Canon CRL, and perhaps more importantly, what kind of diverse deliverables you need to produce quickly and efficiently for your clients. These are fundamental decisions that will absolutely shape your entire production pipeline.
Okay, moving on from codecs, let's zero in on a frame rate that's crucial for so many projects these days. 4K at 60 frames per second. Slow motion, smoother action. How do these cameras handle that sweet spot of resolution and frame rate? Because here again, we see another significant divergence in their philosophies.
We really do. It impacts whether you prioritize sort of straight out of camera perfection or if you're leveraging power in post-production. For straight out of camera or SOSC 4K 60p, the Canon C50 undeniably takes the lead here. Its 4K 60p clips are gloriously oversampled from its larger 7K sensor.
Oversampled from 7K down to 4K.
Exactly. And this is then recorded internally in 10-bit 4.2.2 using either the XF-AVC or the HEVC codecs, and crucially, with no crop. You're using the full width of the sensor intended for 16.9. This means you're getting the absolute best of what the sensor can deliver directly in a 4K file, packed with detail.
And the result of that oversampling, what does it actually look like?
It's visibly cleaner, sharper, and just more detailed material coming straight out of the camera compared to non-oversampled footage. For productions that don't have a robust RAW post-production workflow, or maybe projects with really fast turnaround times where you just need great-looking footage immediately, this makes the C50 a genuine SOC quality sweet spot. You can feel confident delivering those files directly, knowing they're pretty pristine. Now, the Nikon ZR, it approaches 4K 60p from a different angle entirely. It leans much more heavily into its post-production capabilities, though with an important caveat regarding its internal 4K recording.
Yeah, tell us about that. The ZR's internal 4K 60p, when you're shooting full frame, is available in H.265 or ProRes 422HQ. We touched on this, but reviewers noted the H.265 can seem a bit soft or overprocessed, right?
That's the feedback, yeah. And even the ProRes can look a bit polished, which might indicate some internal noise reduction being applied that you can't turn off.
Okay.
And this is the crucial part. The ZR's 4K RAW mode, surprisingly, is not oversampled from the 6K sensor.
Really? How does it work then?
It uses line skipping or pixel binning. The exact method isn't always specified, but the result is that it can appear mushier or less detailed compared to its own oversampled non-RAW codecs, and certainly less detailed than the Canon's oversampled 4K. It's a bit counterintuitive that the non-RAW might look sharper initially. So this brings us to the ZR's real strength for 4K. The recommended strategy, if you want maximum 4K quality from the ZR, is to shoot 6K 60p and R3D internally.
Shoot in 6K RAW.
And then downsample that footage to 4K in post-production during your edit or color grade.
Okay.
This method allows the ZR to deliver very, very high quality 4K 60p. You get immense detail because you started with 6K. You get the flexible color grading latitude of R3D RAW and the ability to make ISO adjustments in post without penalty.
Yeah.
However...
There's always a however.
Yeah. This clearly requires a heavier post-production workflow. Your computer needs to handle 6K RAW, and you need more storage, higher data throughput during recording. It's trade-off.
Now, just to clarify, because it's confused some people early on, the ZR doesn't have an explicit Q mode switch or anything like that for quality settings, right?
No, not like some other cameras. It's internal 4K 60p full frame and 4K 30p full frame in H.265 or ProRes 422HQ are internally oversampled from 6K by default.
Okay, so they are oversampled.
They are, so you're still getting a quality boost there compared to, say, a native 4K sensor or line-skipped 4K. But for that absolute maximum sharpness and detail in 4K, the kind that really wows you, that 6K R3D RAW downsampled in post is the recommended route.
Got it. And just quickly, 4K 120p.
That's only available in a 1.5x DX crop mode, so no 6K oversampling when you're shooting full-frame slow motion at 120p. And that strategy, shooting 6K R3D, obviously significantly impacts your storage needs and your workflow efficiency.
Right, let's talk data rates. How bad is it?
Well, let's put it into perspective. For peak RAW or high bitrate infraframe quality, both cameras are actually remarkably similar in their demands. They're both data hungry at the top end. For example, the Nikon ZR shooting 6K R3D, or the Canon C50 shooting at 7K XF HEVC Intra at its highest setting. He's looking at filling up a 320 GBC FEXpress card in roughly 25 to 30 minutes.
Oof, that's quick.
It is. That's a huge gulp of data per hour. It forces you to prioritize fast, high-capacity media, which isn't cheap, and you need a really disciplined offloading workflow on set.
It really makes you think about your media budget and your data wrangling plan.
Yeah.
However, both cameras also offer more efficient options, right? Like long GOP or lower bitrate codecs.
Exactly. They both offer more efficient long GOP or H.265 options. With these, you can easily extend your recording times to several hours on the same card. For instance, the C50 using its 7K XF HEVC long GOP 4.2.2 profile can give you, like, over an hour and a half on that same 320 GB card.
Much better.
And the ZR's 5.4K H.265 mode can offer over 2 hours. This provides far more flexibility for longer takes, documentaries, events, or just smaller productions where you can't afford dozens of terabytes of storage. But, and this is important, be mindful that these long GOP codecs put a higher decoding load on your computer during post-production.
Right. Easier on storage, potentially harder on your edit machine.
Precisely. Trade-offs everywhere. So this all boils down to a really fundamental choice for you, the filmmaker. Are you primarily a straight-out-of-camera shooter? Do you prioritize immediate high-quality deliverables with minimal fuss in post, relying on the camera's internal processing to give you a great image?
If so, maybe the C50's oversampled 4K has the edge.
It definitely seems to have the edge for SoC 4K 60p, yes. Or are you comfortable with a more robust post-production workflow? Are you willing to invest the time and computational power to extract every single ounce of detail and flexibility from your RAW files by shooting 6K on the ZR and downsampling?
That decision will heavily influence which camera truly fits your personal style or your team's operational style. Okay, let's unpack this next one, stability. It's often the unsung hero on set, isn't it? It's the difference between a shaky, unusable shot that makes your audience seasick and one that just sings with smooth cinematic motion.
Absolutely crucial.
And when we look at the stabilization systems in these two cameras, wow, we see a truly fundamental design principle difference, one that clearly reflects who each camera is truly for. It boils down to, do you prefer to move freely with the camera in your hand, or do you build a stable universe around your camera?
This is perhaps one of the clearest dividing lines between the two, yeah. The Nikon ZR emerges pretty clearly as the handheld champion, and that's thanks to its excellent 5-axis in-body image stabilization, or IBIS.
IBIS. We hear that term a lot.
We do. This system is inherited directly from Nikon's Z6 a camera already known for its pretty robust stabilization. And the ZR offers up to an impressive 7.5 stops of compensation, according to Nikon, though that always depends on the specific lens you're using.
7.5 stops. That's a huge practical advantage in the real world, right? For anyone doing handheld work, run-and-gun documentary shoots, maybe guerrilla-style filmmaking where you just can't rely on extensive rigging. The ZR sounds like a godsend.
It really is. Imagine achieving surprisingly stable shots just from holding the camera, even at cinematic frame rates like 24p or 30p, and crucially, with that standard 180-degree shutter angle that gives you natural motion blur.
Yeah, without that weird digital look.
Exactly. The IBIS helps smooth out those hand tremors and footsteps, meaning less jitter, less perceived wobble, and ultimately more usable footage without adding a ton of extra gear like gimbals or stabilizers for every shot.
Yeah.
And what's more, the ZR's IBIS can actually be combined or stacked with digital electronic stabilization, or eStabi as Nikon calls it, and any optical stabilization built into the lens itself.
So you can layer them.
You can layer them for an even more calm image, as some reviewers described it. This stacking of stabilization methods is particularly valuable when you're using longer focal lengths, where even the slightest hand tremor gets magnified into a really jarring shake on screen. It frees the filmmaker up to focus more on composition and timing, rather than constantly battling camera movement.
Okay, now shifting gears completely to the Canon C50. We see a totally different approach, one that leans heavily towards rigged precision. The C50 entirely lacks in-body image stabilization.
Zero IBIS.
None. That's a significant omission for anyone accustomed to modern mirrorless cameras where IBIS is almost standard now, isn't it?
It is a conscious choice. Instead of IBIS, the C50 relies solely on electronic stabilization, EIS. Now, how this works is by slightly cropping the image sensor readout.
Punching in a bit.
Yeah, creating a small buffer around the edge. And then it digitally shifts the image around within that buffer to try and counteract camera movement. While this can work okay for very minor jitters, maybe static shots, or sometimes at higher frame rates, it is significantly less effective for achieving smooth, natural cinematic motion.
Why is that?
Well, especially when you have natural motion blur in each frame, like when you're shooting at 24 frames per second with a 180-degree shutter, the digital stabilization algorithms really struggle. They're trying to analyze and undo movements in frames that are already inherently blurry due to motion.
Ah, I see.
The result is often this wobbly or unnatural, almost sort of gelatinous look to the footage. It doesn't feel like smooth camera movement. It feels like the image itself is warping. It's a fundamental limitation of EIS when trying to counteract organic camera movement that has motion blur baked in.
That's a really important distinction. So it's not just that it's maybe less effective than IBIS, it can actively detract from the cinematic feel you're probably trying to achieve.
It certainly can in many situations.
But as you said, this isn't necessarily a flaw in Canon's eyes. It's a conscious cinema design choice. It strongly suggests that the C50 is primarily intended for traditional, heavily stabilized setups.
Exactly. We're talking gimbals, Steadicams, tripods, dollies, cranes, shoulder rigs, situations where the camera is already mounted on a rock-solid or smoothly moving platform. In those scenarios, IBIS is simply less critical or even sometimes undesirable.
Why undesirable?
Some high-end DPs actually prefer no IBIS on a rigged camera because occasionally the tiny micro adjustments of the IBIS sensor can fight against the smooth mechanical movement of, say, a gimbal or a fluid head, potentially introducing tiny unwanted jitters. So for a dedicated cinema camera meant for rigging, omitting IBIS makes a certain kind of sense.
Exactly. So for you, the filmmaker, this means if you're that solo shooter constantly on the move, needing stable footage without always relying on extensive rigging, the ZR is clearly superior for that kind of agile production. You gain a lot of freedom and efficiency.
Less gear to carry too. Absolutely. However, if your productions always involve gimbals, dollies, tripods, or heavy shoulder rigs, if you're accustomed to building that stable universe around your camera, then the C50's lack of IBIS might be a complete non-issue for you.
Or even a slight preference.
Potentially, yeah. It's really about matching the tool to your specific intended workflow and shooting style.
Okay, moving on to audio. We see another stark contrast in design philosophy here. Again, one that targets very different operational needs and workflows. This is an area where one camera offers, frankly, unprecedented safety, and the other offers the professional standard connectivity that many rely on.
Right, when it comes to audio, expert, the Nikon ZR has a feature that many are calling an unsung hero, 32-bit float audio recording. Can you explain why that's such a potential game changer for filmmakers, particularly solo operators or small crews? It absolutely is a game changer for so many people. The ZR's 32-bit float audio recording is genuinely one of its most innovative and practical selling points. And what's cool is that it offers this not just via its dedicated smart shoe accessory, but also directly through its standard 3.5 millimeter microphone input,
The regular mic jack.
the regular mic jack, and even, according to the specs, potentially through its internal OZO mode microphones, which often implies some advanced spatial audio capture capabilities as well, though the primary benefit is the float recording itself.
Okay, and for solo operators or small crews, why is 32-bit float audio so transformative? What does it actually do?
It provides such a vast dynamic range for the audio signal, far beyond traditional 16-bit or 24-bit audio. This means your audio is essentially clipping-proof.
Clipping-proof, like impossible to distort.
Pretty much, yeah. Imagine you're recording an interview, right? And you've set your audio levels for normal conversation. Suddenly, your subject bursts out laughing really loudly, or shouts unexpectedly, or a door slams nearby. With traditional 24-bit audio, that sudden peak would likely hit the digital ceiling, causing clipping horrible digital distortion that makes the audio unusable.
Yeah, that horrible crunching sound ruins the take.
Exactly. With 32-bit float, that extra headroom, that massive dynamic range, means that even if the signal goes way over what would have been 0 dB in a 24-bit system, the actual waveform data isn't lost. You can simply lower the level in post-production in your editing software and recover the clean, undistorted audio. It's a massive safety net for unpredictable situations. I can tell you from personal experience, there's almost nothing worse than getting back to the edit suite and finding your perfect take is ruined by clipped audio you couldn't anticipate. 32-bit float is like having an invisible audio guardian angel. And this level of audio fidelity and, maybe more importantly, forgiveness often eliminates the need for complex, separate, external audio recorders in many common scenarios.
Right, you don't need that extra box feeding the camera.
Right. Exactly. It reinforces the ZR's strength as a self-contained, one-person crew powerhouse. You can plug in a decent mic, maybe do a quick sound check, and then focus on getting the shot knowing your audio is largely protected from those unexpected, disastrous peaks. So yeah, the ZR is basically saying, look, if you're running solo, forget stressing about constantly riding the levels. I've got you covered.
That's incredibly appealing. Okay, now in contrast, the Canon C50 approaches audio with a very distinct, set-ready professional mindset. What does it offer?
The C50 comes standard with an included top handle unit. And this top handle features 2 professional locking XLR ports.
Ah, the standard Pro connection.
The standard Pro connection, yeah. Plus, the handle also has a dedicated record button, a zoom rocker for compatible lenses, and other controls. This whole unit provides a robust, broadcast-ready solution for using classic, wired professional microphones and interfacing with external audio mixers. So if you're working on a traditional film set with a dedicated sound mixer feeding audio to the camera, or if you regularly interface with broadcast audio equipment, those integrated XLR ports on the C50 are exactly what you'd expect and need.
Right, no adapters needed.
No adapters, just plug straight in. They're reliable, they're the standard, and they're designed for that kind of demanding professional environment. However, it's really important to note that while the C50 offers these professional inputs, it does not support 32-bit float audio recording internally. It's recording standard 24-bit audio.
Okay, so that creates a very clear decision point for you, the filmmaker, doesn't it?
Absolutely. If you're primarily a solo shooter, or if you often operate in fast-paced, unpredictable environments, documentaries, events, weddings maybe, where you simply can't constantly monitor and adjust audio levels perfectly.
Like a wedding speech turning into a shout.
Exactly. Then the ZR's 32-bit float is a significant advantage, a feature that could literally save your production from unusable audio. On the other hand, if you typically work on traditional sets with a dedicated sound mixer managing the audio, and your priority is robust, standard XLR inputs that integrate seamlessly into an established professional sound workflow.
Then the C50's integrated solution is the preferred and frankly the expected choice for that environment. It's really about whether you need that ultimate safety net for unpredictable solo scenarios, or if you need the dedicated professional audio interface for controlled, crewed environments.
Okay, let's talk about interacting with these cameras, monitoring your shot, and just, the physical handling, the ergonomics. Here, again, we find these 2 cameras making fundamentally different assumptions about how you, the filmmaker, are going to use them on set. It's kind of the difference between a camera that says, hey, leave your external monitor at home, and one that says, yeah, we fully expect you to rig us out. That's a great way to put it, yeah. Let's start with the displays themselves, which is a surprisingly impactful differentiator in day-to-day use. The Nikon ZR boasts a really large 4.0-inch vari-angle display.
4 inches, that's pretty big for a camera screen.
It is. And vari-angle means it fully swivels and tilts, which is great for various shooting angles. It features approximately 3.07 million dots, which is quite high resolution. But here's the real kicker. It has an impressive brightness, reported to be around 1,000 to even potentially 1,500 nits.
Nits meaning brightness, right? How bright is that?
That's very bright for a built-in camera screen, like comparable to some dedicated external field monitors.
Yeah.
This is absolutely critical in real-world shooting conditions.
Because that kind of brightness makes it actually usable outdoors, right? Even in bright sunlight.
Exactly. For a solo operator or anyone trying to keep their rig light and minimal, this often negates the need for an external field monitor entirely. You can actually see what you're shooting without needing a sun hood or straining your eyes. One prominent camera tester even called it the best integrated display of a hybrid cinema camera that is also movable.
Wow.
That's high praise, and it's a huge practical advantage for run and gun shooting, travel filmmaking, or any mobile situation where you just don't want to carry the extra bulk and battery needs of an external monitor. Now, in stark contrast, the Canon C50 features a smaller 3.0-inch articulating display.
Only 3 inches.
Yeah, and with approximately 1.62 million dots, so about half the resolution of the ZR's screen. While it's still movable, articulating out to the side, it's significantly smaller and noticeably dimmer than the ZR's panel. Now, this isn't necessarily a design flaw from Canon's perspective.
This is part of that philosophy again.
It's part of that philosophy. It reflects Canon's core assumption. They anticipate that external monitors, or electronic viewfinders, EVFs, will be frequently used on professional sets. So the built-in screen becomes more of a secondary reference for menus or quick checks rather than the primary monitoring solution.
So the C50 is clearly built with the expectation that you'll be adding external monitoring, which, let's face it, adds to the cost and complexity of your rig. And this leads us perfectly into the broader ergonomics discussion, which presents almost a paradox for the Nikon ZR. It's got this incredible cinema brain inside.
With the red raw, yeah.
But it feels like it's trapped in what some have called a consumer body.
Exactly. While the ZR offers these professional-grade internal features, its physical design has some notable drawbacks if you're thinking of it purely as a cinema camera meant for heavy rigging. For instance, connectivity-wise, it uses a micro HDMI port, Type D.
Ugh, micro HDMI.
Yeah, anyone who has worked on a busy set knows that micro HDMI cables and ports are far more fragile and prone to failure, or just getting accidentally knocked out compared to a full-size HDMI port. This practically necessitates using an HDMI clamp, usually as part of a cage, if you're rigging the camera with an external monitor or recorder.
Right, you need that strain relief.
Definitely.
And then there are the card slots. The ZR has one CF Express Type B slot that's good, that's fast, but the second slot is a microSD card slot, UHS speed.
Which is slow.
Right.
Yep.
It's simply too slow for recording the main high-quality video formats like R3D or ProRes HQ. So you don't get true redundancy or backup video recording for your primary footage onto that second card. It's mostly useful for photos or maybe very low bitrate proxies if supported.
And the location.
Oh yeah, the location. Both slots are inconveniently located underneath the camera inside the battery compartment.
Right next to the battery.
Which makes changing cards an absolute pain. A fiddly, time-consuming nightmare whenever the camera is mounted on a tripod plate, a gimbal, or any kind of rig. You basically have to take the camera off the rig to swap cards.
Not ideal on a fast-paced set.
Not at all.
Yeah.
These design choices, the micro HDMI, the card slot location and type, they practically force users to invest in a camera cage. You need the cage for the HDMI clamp, maybe for better mounting points, and potentially even a riser plate, just to make the ZR feel truly set ready. This adds unexpected cost and complexity to the setup. Plus, as standard, it only has one 1420 mounting point on the bottom without anti-twist pins, which is less than ideal for securely mounting heavier accessories.
And one more minor ergonomic niggle. User LUT import for monitoring is apparently only available when shooting Red RAW. If you're shooting an N-Log, Nikon's log profile, you still rely on their standard view assist function, which isn't quite the same as loading a custom creative LUT. Canon C50, on the other hand, really embodies rig readiness in its physical DNA. Connectivity-wise, it features a full-size HDMI port Type A.
Much better.
Much more robust, much more reliable for set environments. It also provides more dedicated 1420 rigging points directly on the body, and it even has specific threaded holes around the RF lens mount designed for securely attaching PL mount adapters or other heavy lens accessories. It feels inherently more robust and practical for building out a traditional cinema rig.
And its card slot arrangement is much more professional and useful too.
Yes, it uses one CF Express Type B slot, just like the ZR, but its second slot is a full-size SD card slot. UHS-2 compatible. This setup supports true simultaneous recording modes.
Like we discussed with the codecs.
Exactly. You can record your high-quality RAW on the CF Express card and, at the same time, record a high-quality proxy file or even those vertical or square crops we talked about onto the SD card. This offers genuine backup or alternative deliverable recording, which is a massive advantage for professional workflows and those multi-platform deliveries. Plus, the card slots are typically located on the side of Canon cinema bodies, making them easily accessible even when rigged. So your practical choice here becomes quite clear again. If you prioritize a lightweight mobile setup with minimal external gear, and you really depend on having a brilliant, usable, built-in screen, the ZR's display is a huge plus. It genuinely streamlines your operation for solo work.
Makes life easier.
Absolutely. However, if your workflow consistently involves heavy rigging, if external monitors are just a given part of your setup, and you need robust standard connectivity like full-size HDMI, multiple mounting points, and true media redundancy or simultaneous proxy crop recording, then the C50's physical design is far more practical and set-ready right out of the box, even if its own built-in display is less impressive.
All right, let's talk about something that can literally stop a shoot dead in its tracks. Thermal performance. Heat. There's nothing more frustrating, maybe embarrassing too, than having your camera overheat and shut down in the middle of a crucial take, especially with clients watching.
Oh, it's the worst feeling. Absolute shoot killer.
And here again, maybe unsurprisingly at this point, the Canon C50 and Nikon ZR offer two very different approaches to managing heat, each with its own set of benefits and potential drawbacks.
The Canon C50 opts for essentially absolute thermal reliability by employing an active fan cooling system. There's a fan inside the body.
Like its bigger siblings, the C70 or C300 Mark III?
Exactly like those. It draws cool air in, circulates it over the heat-generating components like the sensor and processor, and expels hot air out. This active system ensures what Canon calls absolute thermic safety for multi-hour takes, even in pretty demanding environments. Essentially, it's virtually guaranteed not to thermally limit your recording duration.
So you get huge peace of mind, especially for certain kinds of shoots?
Definitely. Think about shooting long-form content, maybe multi-hour interviews, recording conferences or panels, concerts, live events, or even just long days of studio work where the camera might be running for extended periods. With the C50, you can pretty much press record and largely forget about heat warnings interrupting you.
Okay, that's a big selling point for reliability. Is there any downside to the fan?
Well, the only minor drawback with any active fan, as you might expect, is that it can introduce a small amount of noise. However, Canon typically designs these cooling systems in their cinema cameras to be very well dampened and relatively quiet, especially in their auto fan modes. On a typical film set with ambient noise or professional audio setups using mics placed away from the camera body, it's usually not a significant problem. But it is producing some level of noise, unlike a fanless system. Now, the Nikon ZR takes a fundamentally different and honestly somewhat surprising path. It features a completely fanless design.
No fan at all.
No fan. It relies purely on efficient passive heat dissipation using heat sinks, thermal pads, and the camera body itself to radiate heat away from the internal components. On paper, especially when you consider it's recording high bitrate 6K Red RAW internally, this might sound like a recipe for overheating problem.
That was the immediate concern many people had, wasn't it? How can it handle RAW without a fan? And yet,
it seems surprisingly robust. Nikon stated during the launch that the ZR was tested extensively, including in desert scenarios, and they claimed it achieved 90 minutes of 6K RAW recording nonstop without overheating.
Okay, that's Nikon's claim. What about real-world tests?
Practical tests by prominent camera reviewers have largely confirmed this impressive performance. For example, one well-known tester saw the camera run for approximately 100 to 125 minutes. So, around 2 hours continuously recording 6K at 24 frames per second in R3D in a warm room around 32 degrees C, which is about 90 degrees SAF.
But it didn't overheat?
The battery simply died first.
Wow, the battery was the limitation, not the heat.
In that specific test, yes. Later indoor tests by others actually achieved 2 hours and 2 minutes of continuous recording before the camera stopped, hitting Nikon's known arbitrary 2-hour, 5-minute hard recording limit for non-RAW clips, rather than any thermal shutdown. so it seems capable of very long takes under normal conditions. This means that for most typical shooting conditions and durations, short films, commercials, corporate videos, general content creation, the ZR's passive cooling seems completely sufficient, and it allows for a more compact body design and, crucially, completely silent operation.
That silence is a huge advantage sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. For situations where any fan noise could be problematic, like intimate narrative filmmaking, quiet interviews where the mic is close to the camera, nature documentaries having a completely silent camera is a massive advantage. It also helps keep the camera smaller and potentially less obtrusive.
Okay, but is there any risk? You mentioned a rest risk.
Yeah, that's a term some use. A theoretical rest risk remains if you plan on doing continuous, non-stop recording for over 2 hours, specifically in truly extreme tropical temperatures. Say, you're shooting outdoors in 40 degrees C, which is 104 degrees, heat, with direct sun for hours on end.
Like a documentary in the jungle or desert.
Exactly. While the ZR performs admirably well for a passive system, there's always a theoretical limit to how much heat passive cooling can dissipate under the most extreme, prolonged conditions. So the impact on your production is pretty clear. If you regularly do multi-hour, non-stop takes in potentially very hot environments, the C50's active cooling offers an unparalleled level of safety and peace of mind. You know it's going to keep running.
But for most regular shooting scenarios.
For most regular shooting scenarios, the ZR's passive cooling performs remarkably well, offering the benefits of compactness and silence. Just be aware of that potential extreme edge case, and also remember Nikon's apparent 2-hour, 5-minute hard recording limit for non-RAW clips, which exists regardless of thermals.
So we've dissected these cameras from just about every angle: codecs, stabilization, audio, thermals, handling. Now let's tie it all together and ask the ultimate question for you, the listener. Who are these cameras really for? What kind of filmmaker is going to pick up the Nikon ZR and feel like it was made for them? And who will find their perfect match in the Canon C50? This really means truly understanding your specific needs, right? Are you that lean, mean filmmaking machine running solo, or are you typically part of a well-oiled, larger production crew?
That's the crux of the matter, absolutely. Let's start with the Nikon ZR. It has undeniably established itself as the value winner in this comparison, and it seems ideally suited for the agile, often independent creator.
Absolutely. I mean, the ZR feels like a dream come true for indie filmmakers and solo shooters, doesn't it? If you demand high-quality RAW, but you're working on a tighter budget, and you're often operating without a large crew, its feature set seems tailor-made for you. That class-leading IBIS for smooth handheld work, that brilliant 4-inch display potentially negating the need for an external monitor, and especially that clipping-proof 32-bit float audio. Those are massive practical benefits for a one-person band operation. It's also fantastic for ambitious content creators who want to seriously elevate their image quality beyond typical mirrorless offerings.
You're absolutely right. And for specific genres like documentary, run-and-gun reporting, corporate videos, or even travel filmmaking, anywhere where handheld stability, a light overall weight, and the ability for quick setup and teardown are paramount, the ZR truly shines. Its ability to produce stable, high-quality footage on the fly with minimal fuss is just invaluable in those situations.
And the RD compatibility.
Oh, yeah. And as we mentioned, for anyone needing a RD-compatible B-cam, it's an absolute no-brainer. Getting that internal R3D recording with the correct Log3G10 and Ardwide Gamut color science means seamless integration, color matching, exposure logic within an existing RD ecosystem at a fraction of the cost of another RD body.
Okay, so boiling down its key strengths. The ZR offers an unbeatable price-to-performance ratio for getting internal Red RAW 6K up to 60p. You add that excellent 5-axis IBIS, the incredibly useful 32-bit float audio safety net, that large and genuinely bright 4-inch display, its relatively light and compact body, around 540 to 630 grams depending on configuration, and its surprisingly robust thermal performance for a fanless system. It all adds up to a highly compelling package for that agile, budget-conscious filmmaker who prioritizes RAW and mobility. Exactly. Now, turning our attention to the Canon C50, this camera is very clearly positioned as the set-ready workhorse. It's designed for more traditional, often larger scale, and demanding professional productions, right? This camera feels ideal for commercials and agency jobs where clients frequently require the flexibility of open-gate footage for reframing or VFX, and maybe those flexible deliverable options like simultaneous horizontal and vertical crops.
That dual recording is huge for agencies now.
Huge. It makes it a game changer for social multi-deliverables. Any production needing to efficiently create content for multiple platforms, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram broadcasts, all in one go. For studio work, live events, or conferences where long, uninterrupted takes are common and direct, reliable XLR audio input is crucial. The C50 provides that absolute peace of mind with its active cooling and professional audio interface.
And critically, as we discussed with ergonomics, for crews who typically work with extensive rigging gimbals, dollies, cranes, shoulder rigs, external monitors, follow focus systems, dedicated sound mixers, the C50's robust build and traditional cinema I/O are a huge advantage. Features like the full-size HDMI, the multiple secure mounting points, and the included XLR top handle mean it's ready to integrate seamlessly into complex professional setups straight out of the box without workarounds.
So the C50's key strengths really revolve around that OpenGate 7K sensor for ultimate reframing, VFX work, or anamorphic shooting. Its unique dual recording capabilities for streamlining landscape, plus vertical or square crop deliverables. Its truly professional I/O and rigging readiness, its active fan ensuring absolute thermal reliability for long takes, and let's not forget its high-quality oversampled 4K straight out of camera for fast turnaround needs.
So, to sum up the big picture, the Nikon ZR is arguably the better choice for solo shooters, indie filmmakers, and anyone prioritizing RAW for the money. It's mobile, it's light, it's internally stabilized, and it's incredibly affordable for the core image quality it offers. The Canon C50, on the other hand, is the better choice for the classic professional set, for commercials, for productions demanding parallel social deliverables. It offers professional I/O, open-gate versatility, and is thermically secure, though it does come at a significantly higher price point. Your choice ultimately hinges entirely on your specific needs, your budget, and your typical workflow. It's truly about finding the right tool for your specific job.
All right, let's zoom out a bit and talk about the ripple effect. Because when two major players like Nikon and Canon drop such strategically impactful cameras almost simultaneously, it doesn't just reshape their own market segments, it sends pretty significant shockwaves across the entire industry.
Oh yeah, the whole market feels it.
And nowhere is this pressure likely felt more acutely right now than on Sony's incredibly well-established and frankly dominant cinema line, specifically cameras like the FX3, the FX2, maybe even the FX30.
That's absolutely right. The simultaneous release of the Nikon ZR and the Canon C50 places really significant pressure on established players, particularly Sony in that compact cinema space. It's forcing a critical reevaluation from potential buyers about value per dollar and also about what the baseline for internal features should be in this category now. Sony has enjoyed a position as almost the default recommendation for a long time in this segment.
Yeah, FX3 has been king for a while.
Exactly. But that narrative is now being seriously challenged really from both ends of the spectrum represented by these two new cameras.
Okay, let's consider the Nikon ZR first and how it directly impacts, say, Sony's popular FX3. The ZR just directly challenges the FX3's price-to-performance ratio in a very, very aggressive way, doesn't it?
Extremely aggressive.
The Nikon ZR offers internal red RAW for under $2,500. The Sony FX3, while an excellent camera, in many ways great autofocus, great performance, costs significantly more, often closer to $4,000, and crucially, it does not offer any form of internal RAW recording. You need an external recorder for RAW output.
Right, at the AS recorder usually.
This creates a really glaring gap in core RAW acquisition capabilities when comparing them purely on internal recording, especially considering the ZR is cheaper. It makes the FX3 look suddenly less competitive, specifically on that metric.
This is a significant potential blow to the FX3's value proposition, especially for filmmakers who prioritize RAW flexibility and want an all-in-one internal solution. The narrative shifts, like we said, from maybe focusing just on how good is the S and tone look straight out of camera to how much raw latitude and flexibility do I actually get for my money. And that's an area where the ZR now dominates at its price point. It forces Sony to really consider what its compact cinema line offers in terms of fundamental image acquisition power internally.
And then we have the Canon C50, which brings a different kind of pressure to bear, maybe more on the workflow and feature set side, affecting both the Sony FX3 and maybe the newer FX2. The C50, while priced more similarly to the FX3, provides that unique OpenGate 7K capability and those sophisticated dual recording capabilities for simultaneous social media crops.
Features that are very hot right now.
Very hot, and features currently not found internally in any of Sony's compact cinema cameras.
This highlights a potentially significant gap in Sony's current offerings, specifically targeting multi-platform deliverables. In today's media landscape, where content often needs to be delivered simultaneously for traditional 16.9 screens, vertical social media platforms, and maybe square formats, The C50's internal workflow flexibility is a massive time-saving advantage.
Yeah, saves hours in the edit.
Absolutely. It addresses a very real, modern production need that Sony currently leaves unfulfilled internally in this segment. And that will undoubtedly impact buying decisions, especially for agencies, commercial production houses, and social media content teams who need that efficiency.
And what about the impact on the Sony FX2? That's their newer model, sits below the FX3.
Well, the FX2, which has that 33-megapixel sensor adapted for video, 10-bit 4.2.2 internal, and importantly, an internal fan like the C50, it's certainly price attractive. But it becomes a much harder pitch for Sony salespeople when potential customers are now walking in asking for RAW inside, which has become a major talking point thanks to the Nikon ZR.
Right, the conversation has changed.
Exactly. The absence of internal RAW makes the FX2, despite its other strengths, feel potentially less future-proof or less capable in terms of pure image potential compared to these new entrants, especially the ZR at a similar price point. And even the FX30, Sony's really popular APS-C sensor budget scene option, faces some marketing pressure now. While it's still highly relevant and a great camera for its target market, it's now kind of flanked, isn't it?
Yes, squeezed a bit.
Squeezed. On one side, you have the Nikon ZR, which is similarly priced but offers a larger full-frame sensor and internal RAW. On the other, you have the Canon C50 with its headline-grabbing open gate capabilities, even if it's more expensive. The FX30's unique selling points, primarily being an affordable entry into the cinema line, suddenly feel a bit less unique in this rapidly evolving landscape, especially for users considering a step up in sensor size or demanding internal RAW capabilities around that $2,000 to $2,500 price bracket.
So what does this all mean for Sony? What do we expect them to do? They can't just ignore this, can they?
No, they absolutely can't. Industry analysts are definitely anticipating a response from Sony. It seems almost necessary. We expect Sony will likely respond with updates to its FX line sooner rather than later.
What kind of updates?
Well, potentially adding some form of internal RAW recording, maybe their own XOCN format, or perhaps licensing ProRes RAW internally. Maybe adding more flexible recording options like an open gate mode or advanced proxy crop features similar to the C50. Perhaps improving the display brightness on models like the FX3, which has been a common critique. Or possibly adjusting their pricing strategy to remain more competitive, especially against the ZR. Zooming out again, the larger implication here, the big picture, is that this isn't just about two new cameras shaking things up. This is a really clear signal that the bar for expected internal features, codec flexibility, and workflow efficiency in the compact cinema camera market has been dramatically raised.
The goalposts have moved.
The goalposts have definitely moved. And all the major players, especially Sony, which held such a strong position, are now clearly on notice. The conversation is shifting, maybe subtly but importantly, from just focusing on the subjective look of a camera's image profile, like S and tone.
Which is still important.
Still important, absolutely. But it's shifting towards quantifiable benefits like deliverables flexibility and workflow time savings. And those are areas where Nikon and Canon, with the ZR and C50 respectively, are currently making very strong inroads. To maintain its position as that default recommendation for so many filmmakers, Sony's FX series is almost certainly going to need a significant refresh in terms of internal codecs and formats, monitoring capabilities like screen brightness, and overall competitive pricing. The market has truly shifted beneath their feet. Hashtag outro.
And that brings us, I think, to the end of our deep dive into the Nikon ZR and the Canon C50. Wow, what an illuminating journey it's been. Really uncovering not just the technical specifications, but the very different philosophies driving these two really significant new releases.
Indeed. It's been fascinating to map out. We've seen how the Nikon ZR really stands tall as the value winner, doesn't it? Offering that incredible internal red raw quality, class-leading IBIS for handheld freedom, the almost magical clipping-proof 32-bit audio for solo operators, and that genuinely brilliant, bright display all packed into a compact, remarkably affordable package. It feels ideal for the agile, independent creator.
Yeah, absolutely nails that brief. And then we have the Canon C50, positioned clearly as the set-ready workhorse. It justifies its higher price point with that versatile open-gate 7K sensor for unparalleled reframing flexibility, those unique and unmatched dual recording capabilities for streamlining diverse social media deliverables, its robust professional I/O like full-size HDMI and built-in XLRs, and of course, that absolute thermal reliability thanks to its active cooling system. It's truly built for professional crews and demanding structured productions.
And ultimately, as we've said throughout, Neither camera is inherently better than the other across the board. The better camera is, and honestly always will be, the one that solves your specific workflow bottlenecks, the one that perfectly matches your specific production needs, and the one that fits realistically within your budget.
So you really need to ask yourself, do you prioritize that cutting-edge internal raw quality and maximum handheld mobility, perhaps on a tighter budget, craving the freedom to create stunning images on the go with minimal fuss? That sounds like the ZR. Or do you need the ultimate flexibility of open gate for post-production, the efficiency of simultaneous multi-platform deliverables straight from the camera, and robust, set-ready features and reliability, even if it means a higher upfront investment? That points towards the C50.
And as these two cameras continue to redefine the compact cinema landscape, inevitably forcing even giants like Sony to adapt and innovate, consider this as our final provocative thought for you to take away. What essential feature, perhaps something that today we still consider a luxury or a niche requirement, will become the next non-negotiable standard in compact cinema cameras? Will it be internal RAW for everyone? Will it be 8K, advanced AI features? And maybe more importantly, how will that next wave of innovation ultimately shape the kinds of stories you choose to tell and how you tell them?
Food for thought, definitely. We encourage you to keep exploring these tools, keep questioning what you need from your camera, and most importantly, keep creating. Thank you so much for joining us on The Deep Dive.
Thanks, everyone.
We'll see you next time.